Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Today, we have on Annette de Lancey. She's another Profit First professional who does so much more. We're going to have a great conversation on what it means to be an entrepreneur and how to deal with family and loved ones who may not support our business in what we do or even understand us. You know, the life of an entrepreneur and business owner, cash flow goes up and down like a roller coaster. And while you might be comfortable with it, a lot of people aren't. And a lot of times they don't understand what we do. And so Annette helps to have better conversations with those people. Annette is a mom, brand new grandmom, golfer, loves trucks, woman of faith, career entrepreneur, and manufacturer. She's the owner-founder of She Makes Products. She transforms struggling products into profitable businesses for overwhelmed entrepreneurs into CEOs in command. She's also the owner and founder of Cast Covers, fun and functional products for the orthopedic patient, made proudly in the USA for over 13 years. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Annette de Lancey. It's great to have you join us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation today, Rocky.
As am I. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes. Well, my name is Annette de Lancey. I'm the owner and founder of Cast Covers, which is a 13-year-old rock and fun manufacturing e-commerce company based here in the United States. But I'm also the owner and creator of She Makes Products, where I help entrepreneurs with struggling products transform into successful, profitable businesses and a CEO in command.
2 very nice, fun businesses.
Very.
So one of the things we always love to talk about is Profit First. How did you learn about Profit First?
Oh my gosh. I wish I remembered how I was introduced to Mike, but I remember reading the book saying, this is the answer I've been looking for. And I did, I would call it Mike Light for the first couple years, and it just wasn't working well. And so then I thought, I'm going to read it again, and I kind of put it off to the side. And then I got into it with gusto about 3 years ago, and it has completely transformed my business, Cast Covers. And so much so that I knew this would help other entrepreneurs with struggling product businesses. So I am a certified Profit First coach as well.
Cool. So what was business like before Profit First?
scattered, chaotic. I was worried about how to make payroll. I didn't know where taxes were going to come from. It was an inordinate amount of distraction away from the core of the business.
And you tried it and you did it light, but it doesn't sound like you got very far.
No, I didn't do the separate accounts. I knew and so I thought, oh, I don't need to do that. I've got the discipline. No, I don't. So I had a little pity party with myself and said, okay, Annette, you do not have the discipline. And that's what Mike talks about and espouses about in the book and in the principles. It's a behavior modification process, and it's a cash flow tool, and that's what you want. I have a phenomenal CPA and bookkeeper, but it wasn't making sense for me. What Mike has developed and Profit First embodies is what an entrepreneur's brain works like. And it just when I said, all right, I'm going to go all in. I'm just going to do it all for a year. And if it doesn't work, then it's not going to work for you. Within 3 months, I knew it was working. Once I separated the accounts, got different bank accounts, and did it exactly with the percentages and the allocated percentage, the taps, all of those. It started to flow after 3 months. It was clunkiness, but that's to be expected. Whenever you have a new system, you have to kind of learn it. And so I went in full force.
And I've got to say, the accounts and having it separated with a purpose, it's a total mindset shift. Like when I look at my accounts now, I'm like, I know what that's for. And I don't have a problem taking a paycheck because I see this is my paycheck money. I'm allowed to take that. Yes. And then the other day I was looking at my tax account and I'm like, there's a lot of money in this tax account. I'm wondering if it's too much. And then quarterlies came due and I went, oh. Well, it's a good thing that there was all that money in that account.
Oh, yeah. Exactly the same thing. It was when I heard what I owed for last year, and who knew about last year, because 2020 was such a unique year for all of us. And some did really well, some really suffered. But I had no idea how it was going to work out. My CPA was getting new updates all the time anyway from the government. So luckily it was all there and a lot extra. It was so nice not to have to dip into my savings. It was such a relief.
It is. And then I have my profit account and I look at that and I'm like, I've got a big, massive vault account, and I know that I can now run my business for 18 months to 2 years without $1 in revenue. And that allows me to go to sleep.
Isn't that amazing? The peace that you feel? Yes, that's exactly when it was March 11th was my last normal day of sales last year. And because my product in cast covers is a discretionary product, I expected sales to tank 50%, 50, because whenever America is distracted, I don't care if it's a holiday or a hurricane, my sales drop about 15%, 15. So I've learned to account for that. July 4th holiday, Christmas, that kind of thing. Even Prime Day today and tomorrow, Prime Day, that kind of thing. I know my sales will drop. So I saw the pandemic coming and I said, I'm going to have a 50% drop. I had a 90% drop in sales for 2 months. Wow. But I was okay. I was okay because of Profit First. I was completely okay. It's just amazing. So I'm a huge advocate and fan.
And you know that over time you can pivot, but in the moment it's difficult to pivot, when you get that gut check, and having the ability to do so is good. And so yes. Congrats on being able to do that. Today is Prime Day. It's funny because I'm not a shopper, but they sent me money. So I'm like, what do I need for $10? Like, I need new iPhone cords. The one in the car is broken. So I put a note on the calendar this morning. I went in and I spent $12 and they gave me 10, and then I went back to life.
There you go. Yes. And well, when I heard Prime Day, it's like, today, Prime Day, this is 3 months ago. Prime Day, I thought that was Thanksgiving, because my product is a you don't buy it out of on a whim. It's to cover casts and splints and braces anytime you've injured yourself. So either you need it or you don't. So my product does not get impacted by anything like that.
It follows. I don't know if there's a natural rhythm of breaking bones.
No, but there is. A lot of people think, oh, in the summer because you're playing, or in the winter because you're falling. No, there is not. The product selection changes over the year, so there's more waterproof products in the summer, and there's more weatherproof products in the winter. But it is almost constant, with a little blip of children in May and September, October, only because they're excited. They're at the end of the school year, May, and they're playing on the playground, and so they're not paying attention. And or the beginning of the school year, September, October, and they're not paying attention, and they get a broken bone. But that's a slight elevation in broken bones with children and play yards, but that's it.
Well, today we're here to talk about what we always face as entrepreneurs, when the people around us don't always love our business as much as we do, and they make comments. And I always say, I think parents want their kids to be safe. They don't want them to be successful. Your spouse just wants to make sure that they have enough money to pay for the stuff at home. And unfortunately, the life of a business owner is a roller coaster, and not everyone likes roller coasters. I know, I hate them. So it's a bit of an issue. What have you found?
Such an interesting topic, and it's really a taboo topic sometimes when you think about and particularly for entrepreneurs with spouses that don't support them. They think they're very alone and isolated, and actually it's a very big problem. And what we've found, and what my research found, is there's actually science to support if different ways that women and men are supported. But let's use women at this juncture in our conversation. So way back, no matter what you believe about evolution, but way back when we were a hunter-gatherer society, women relied heavily on survival from the males, their male partners, going out and killing things, and then we would stay behind and cook and do tan hides and things like that. So we relied very heavily. Well, we've evolved, but what has happened is our brains still think way back, and so even though we can still create businesses, we being women can create businesses, we rely heavily on our spouses to be supportive of that. And oftentimes that's when the problems occur, because there's an expectation of support that is mismanaged. And the best way I can describe that is the support spectrum, which goes back to your first question about the support and why it's important. So on the support spectrum, there's, like with most things, it's a spectrum, very low levels to very high levels. And I'll give you some examples to give you an idea. So on one end, when I was answering the phones back in the day in cast covers, a woman called and she had broken her leg and she needed to have some cast covers. And one conversation led to another, and she found out I was the owner. And then she told me that she was a baker, and she was invited to it was New York or New Jersey, upstate New York. I'm not sure. It was a show. I wish I had kept touch with her. And it was a very prestigious show, and she was very excited about it. And so she was telling me about it, and she was very excited. And she told me, the conversation just proceeded. She knew nothing about my research into this subject, that she had called her husband and said, oh my gosh, I've been invited to the show in 3 weeks. And oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And he decided to ask her some questions. So he asked her, how are you going to put up the booth? Who's going to help you? How are you going to take orders? Have you figured out your wholesale costs? Have you figured out? And she stopped him in the middle of those questions. And I'll repeat how she said it. This isn't how I talk, but this is how she talks. And she said, fine, I'll call my mother. Click, and hung up. And so I had established some credibility at this time. And so I asked her, would you like my advice? And she said, oh, yes, please. So I proceeded to ask her every single legitimate question her husband asked her. She paused for a very long time, and she said, I owe him an apology, don't I? I said, yes, you do. So that's a level of mismanaging your expectations. typically entrepreneurs have this.
Hang on. You know why that happens, right? See,
Well,
when you women come to us with a problem, we fix it.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. But also, entrepreneurs have absolutely, and he asked such good questions. And he was worried about her. She had a broken leg. How was she going to do this? How was it going to impact the family, et cetera, et cetera? And so that is just an element of mismanaged expectations. That's all. And one of the other aspects of that is that entrepreneurs, male or female, we have a different risk tolerance than typically our spouses, unless we happen to marry another entrepreneur, and that's rare. But so our risk tolerance, and we have this optimism, and we have this hope, and we use hope as a strategy at times. And our spouses, whoa, you're dipping into the retirement accounts. Whoa, you're not going to be home for dinner again. Those kind of things. And so it creates an imbalance there as well. Back to the support spectrum. So that was one end of mismanaging the expectations. And women have a tendency to do that. I'll be the first one to voice that. And that's what you were just saying, Rocky, is that women have a tendency to, if you want to get yay, rah, rah, you should get your girlfriends around you and just get that yay, rah, rah. But we don't need just the cheerleader. We also need a very good support system. And he was providing good support by asking the questions that were important. Then on the other end, way on the other end of the support spectrum is, and it's a story that I use. It was a woman client that I was helping who has a very nice business on Etsy, crafting handmade items. It's a very nice business and beautiful items. And at 5 o'clock, she has to shut it down, put everything in the closet. But right before her husband walks in, he doesn't allow her to talk about it at dinner. He doesn't allow her to share customer service stories with the children. He just wants to see the money in the bank account. He never wants to hear about it. That is bordering on abuse because he is not allowing her essence. So that's why I'm saying there's a wide variety of support. And so the first thing you need to find out is, where am I on the support spectrum, and or where is my spouse, my mother, my father, my sister, my friends, and learn how to adapt with some tools that I've created.
And that's important to ask the right questions, to know where you're at, and to take the appropriate responses and be clear with all of that. It's not easy. And the risk tolerance, I think, is big. But it's also, I don't know how the appropriate, what's exciting for us is not exciting for them.
Exactly.
To them, it's like, you got another client. So what is that like?
Yes.
I should come. Oh, now you can buy another purse. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Although she makes her own money, so she doesn't care.
No, but that's, you're distilling it to, Rita, how does this affect me? What's in it for me, basically. Or how is this going to affect me? That's a very big key. And we have to be careful that the questions that we receive from the people that love us, that we don't take it too personally, that we allow it to, we just kind of sit with it for a little bit first and see where they're coming from, and then be able to go from there. And I've developed an agreement. It's called the NET contribution agreement, not Annette, like in my name, but in NET, N-E-T, contribution agreement. And it's really for spouses. And basically it identifies what the parameters are for being in business. So for example, are you expecting a payout every week, every month, once a year? Are you going to wait until the big payout when you sell the business a few years down the road? What's going to be sacrificed? Because something is always sacrificed. Is it the children? Is it the in-laws? Is it the swimming lessons? What's going to be sacrificed? And so you have this document. It's a working, dynamic document, dynamic in the truest sense of the words, which means fluid. And you go back and forth a couple times together, and you have a really good agreement. And then you revisit it about every 90 days to 120 days and make sure it's still working for your family, because things change.
Interesting. And quarterly goals and quarterly review and making sure that you're on the same page. Because I've seen you say this, and I do this with my clients. Life is not lived in silos, right? Our home and our business come together along with our mindset. And that's like literally my first coaching question for most of my clients is, tell me how you grew up with money. I want to know where they are coming from, what their attitudes are towards money and profit. And I want to know about their family. And I want to know, what are you doing to merge your family and your business together? Because if you do it well, things are phenomenal and your kids will thrive. If you do it poorly, there will never be a profit payday because they will take all your money in your business and kick you out. So it's definitely something that you've got to be focused on.
Absolutely. And the fact that you brought up the silos is a critical part of my research as well, that what I've identified is there's 8 parallels of business and marriage, and finances is the classic. And we'll use that as an example because it's so easy to understand. Typically, if you're really good and organized in your finances and business, you're good and organized in your finances and marriage. And the opposite is true as well. If you're kind of scattered, forget to pay bills, kind of miss payroll, you're probably not very good in your personal family finances as well. And this is something that a lot of people think they can compartmentalize their business and their marriage. You can't. You can't compartmentalize. And once you do, it's like the extreme level of lack of support that I had given an example. There's a horrific hole and void that is missing in, horrific is a strong word. There's a big hole that's missing that needs to be filled when spouses particularly don't understand the parallels of business and marriage, the 8 parallels.
And so we do need to communicate with our spouses about business issues. Do you have any advice on how we should do that? Yes.
You first, hopefully you've been keeping the lines of communication open so they're aware. So they know what you do. They kind of know what your sales are. They know who your employees are. They know what some of the issues are. They don't need to know the gnat's eyebrow, but just kind of a broad stroke, macro sense at the very least. And also ask them questions. This is, again, just hopefully this is just what's happening. Ask questions. What would you do? How would you handle this? That doesn't mean that you're going to take that advice, but they could spark something in you to think about it. So hopefully that's been going on. If that hasn't been going on, you need to start getting that on. Because if something comes up, if a problem comes up, let's say you get audited by the IRS or the California Department of Labor, which is something that I got audited by. You want to make sure you this is not a surprise. Never ever surprise your spouse with something. Should be, I mean, obviously, if you get sued by somebody, that's different, but at least they've got an understanding of what's going on. So what you do is you say, I've got this great opportunity, with this strategic partnership, and it's going to involve more people, more product, more something, and less of me here at home. What do you think? And you have these discussions, and if there is any pushback, it's typically fear. And fear, we're either driven by fear or love. We hear that all the time, but it's true. So you would want to ask, what is it that you're fearful of? And to be really open to that, because maybe they say, you know what, I'm really sad. I hardly see you now. Or this means you're going to take more money out of our retirement account. And that makes me really nervous. So you can hear, and a good, respectful relationship honors the other person's concerns and does their best to alleviate that, bring them into the fold, meaning communicate, so that there isn't, oh, by the way, 2 years ago, we were audited by the IRS, and I forgot to tell you about that. You don't ever want to go there. That's not a healthy. I actually have the 4 C's of business and the 4 C's of marriage, and basically it shows, for example, in business, the 4 C's are the create or commerce. That's the first section. The second section is chaos, and the third one is crumbling, and the fourth one is collapsed. And so it shows the different management styles and what's going on in the business and what happens. And then the same thing with marriage, the 4 C's of marriage. And so you go back to where are we? That's where you start, is you identify where are we on the support spectrum? Where are we on the 4 C's of business and 4 C's of marriage, if it applies with the spouse? And then, okay, now we know where we are. Now we can move the needle. And what happens, and this is so important and not discussed enough, people focus on the negative. So they say, wow, we're in really bad shape. I'm not paying my bills. I'm not, something like that. What you need to do is stop focusing on the negative and say, okay, this is where I am. What can I do to get to the next level? Just like Profit First. That's what I love about Profit First. It doesn't say next month you have to take 15% out for profit. It actually says, okay, you're going to do it 1%, 2%, until you build up in an 18-month, 2-year process until you get to those levels. Do you agree with that, Rocky?
I do. It takes time. It's a process, and you got to work through it. And yes, your spouse does not like to be blindsided, especially with the negative things.
Right.
It's okay to blindside them with the positive, I guess.
It's okay to blindside with the positive, yes.
But the negatives, I think it's also stressful when depending on where you're at with the money situation, it can get very, very stressful. And so just being clear and open with that, and making sure you also keep your personal and your business finances separated, so that. And that's where I've heard the other problem is sometimes the spouse looks at the business credit card as a piggy bank and spending money left and right. So these things go both ways, both sides. So being very clear, keeping things separated, and having conversations is always key.
Yes. And there is a difference between a married couple and a committed couple. And it's the legalities and the structure of marriage. And even if your business is a single member LLC, you've structured it very separately. If something goes awry and the marriage doesn't work out, in most states, divorce looks at all assets and all liabilities. And that's why it's so important to pay attention and to make sure you keep that separate, but that you have that information. In case something happens. That's the one thing a lot of people are not aware of when it comes to marriage, the legal structure of marriage and business.
It all goes together.
Yes, it
They
does.
are not silos.
No, they are not. That's correct.
I think this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but entrepreneurship is a lonely world for a lot of people because the people around them don't get them. And that's one of the things I consistently hear. It sounds like you see that through the work that you do.
That's correct. That's one thing that we touched on this earlier, where entrepreneurs typically have a higher risk tolerance than other people. And if we've married somebody, typically they're not the same risk tolerance. And so it can become very lonely. And you really are inside your head. And so it's very important to have a support network. If you don't have a good, solid support network, then you are too much in your head. And that is never a good place, because you're thinking and you're talking to yourself. And you need to be able to bounce ideas off of. And so if you don't have that with a spouse or a partner, if you do not have, that does not mean you have to get a divorce or break up. It just means you need to find the support and to be able to talk to these people that are in your corner, that have your best interests at heart. That's very important, but also have a good rational sense of thinking. So you can get the yay, rah, rah. You can probably get that from your Facebook friends. But we're talking about your own board of advisors. And so I have 3 very critical people in my life. And one of them has no business experience, but has wonderful street smarts. Another one is a CPA. She's just phenomenal and a woman of very few words, but the words she speaks are gold. And the other one was my father, who sadly passed away last month. And he was a business owner. So I'm going to have to find a replacement. Now, nobody can replace my father, but he was a solid businessman. And he challenged me, but he didn't denigrate me in any way, shape, or form. He believed in what I was doing completely. There were times I had other ideas, and he went, no. And he explained why. So I know that he was not just a yes man or yes dad. He was a wonderful, wonderful support system. So it's very important to find and cultivate that. And you have to intentionally go out and find that. If you don't, and this is so clear. Facebook is great in ways, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where you sit down face to face. Okay, during the pandemic, we'd have to do it Zoom, but let's hope that that's not going to happen again. But where you find really a solid core of 3 or 4 people, small handful of people that you can really turn to.
And that's important. I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Yes, thank you.
One of the things I belong to is a mastermind group with other entrepreneurs, and that's a place where we get together weekly. And if there's business problems or issues or, they have helped guide me as I've built my business, and they hold me accountable. And sometimes they kick me when I need to be kicked and say, do this, do that. And it's important to have that support group. So these days you're helping companies that have struggling products. Let's dig into that. Can you share a little bit more about who you help and what you do for them?
Absolutely. If I could just add on to what you talked about with Masterminds, which is just phenomenal. The fact that you said weekly is gold. That is just wonderful. And what I've also learned decades ago, I was the rainmaker for a couple firms. I was top in my sales, and it was very competitive, and I was always the number one salesperson. And I'm saying this for a reason, not to toot my horn, but I found I was starting to struggle in my cast covers business about getting the sales on the business to business side, not just the consumer sales. And I found out it's because I had this very competitive nature, but there was no competition. It was just me for me. And so I had to shift gears, and it became a collaboration then. So then what I do is I have strategic partnerships with competitors, with like-minded products that help our orthopedic patients. And it's all about collaboration. So sometimes you have to look at what the entrepreneurial world is very different, very alone, as you said. And it's important to get that collaboration, and masterminds can help you. Not only can they help you collaborate, but they can also keep you, again, it's the talking to ourselves, and we just keep talking to ourselves. It doesn't do any good. It just doesn't do any good. So now on to your question. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, Rocky.
I was going to ask, how does your company help entrepreneurs who have struggling products?
Thank you. She Makes Products identifies businesses that somebody who's very excited about their product, very passionate, has done some of the legwork, has gotten product out there, has been some interest, but they're really struggling in terms of getting the public notice, exposure that they need, getting the sales they need, getting the profit margins that they need, getting the confidence that they need. Too often somebody develops a product and it's just one product. It's not a business. So they need to have somebody to bounce ideas off of and say, is this more of a business or is this a product? And then to get their skills up, and so that they lead their business with confidence, and so that they know, and profit first is a key element, because so much of our lack of confidence is tied into the money. Do I have enough money? What's my profit margin? What's my net profit margin? What's my cost of goods? Is this an office expense, or is this a cost of sales? That type of thing. So we help them with a lot of the practical aspects, as well as the mindset that's needed to become the CEO in command that they want to be.
And that's one thing I find, especially and I think you're dealing more with manufacturers, right? When you say product companies, are you talking about resellers?
Yes. However, yes, manufacturers, because that's very unique, and manufacturing has had a storied past in the United States. But it's also people who have a digital product. They still have a lot of the same kind of concerns about building a business. And so it's a product. We don't help, for example, service-based entrepreneurs, and that would be architects, CPAs, lawyers.
Okay. And so the reason I ask is because what I find, especially in the online world, people buy something for $100, they sell it for $200, they think they're profitable. They don't realize how many fees and sales costs and shipping. And then if they're in manufacturing, they don't realize all of the stuff that goes involved in that and what it really takes to be able to make a profit. And I think for most of them, I tell people, if you're buying something for $100, hopefully you're selling it for $300 or $400 or much higher. Yes, otherwise, you are going to struggle in your business because you don't have enough margin to be able to cover all the costs of running a business. And every business is different, so you've got to figure out your numbers. But I think people need much, much bigger margins.
Yes, when you manufacture a product, and reselling is a little bit different, but when you manufacture a product, I typically go for 5 times cost of goods. So you can actually do a reverse engineer. When you look at a product on a page and you know this particular manufacturer made it, and let's just say it's rope. I don't know. I just thought of a boat for some reason. And the rope was $10. Well, then their cost of goods should be $2. And that's because it's divided by 5. And so that's a good way to identify what a cost of goods is, so you can help judge where you are, where you need to be. So the cost of goods includes the markup, gives you that markup so you can have middle persons and or wholesale arms. For example, my product, cast covers, is on Amazon. And Amazon, they are not a channel for me. They are actually, I have to consider them a wholesaler. So roughly 40%. Once you put in everything, from the advertising cost to the shipping to the returns are 10 times on Amazon what they are on my main website. And so once you put in all of those factors, that's why you need to have that. And I completely agree with you. When it comes to a reseller, that's a little bit different, but I like your 3 to 4 times cost of goods. But if you're making something from scratch, let's say you're making a pie and it costs you $6 to make that pie, you better charge $30 for that pie or you're going to be losing money.
And every industry has its own particular margins, and they're out there. You just have to figure it out for your industry and see what it is and make sure that it is reasonable. So, it's funny. So math gets tricky, right? Mm-hmm. If I buy something for $100 and I sell it on Amazon for $200 and they take 40%, it's 40% of 200 would actually only leaves me with $20 between what I paid and what I got. You can't survive on $20.
No, you can't. And that's why it is important. You did say it though, Rocky. It depends on the industry and depends on the product. There are some commodity driven products. So the volume is what makes up for it. But you're absolutely right. The margins are too narrow. You don't have the customer list. It is not your customer list. So you can't rely on that. And you're limited in marketing opportunities. A lot. Amazon was very good at and is still good at many things, but they're also the tarnish is starting to show on their armor because merchants are getting squeezed more and more, and they're starting to either drop off or go somewhere else. And you're absolutely right. People think, oh, I bought it for 100, I sold it for 200. Oh my gosh, I made 50. I doubled my money. No, you did not. No, you didn't. Let's go through this. And so what does it cost for your phone? What does it cost for this? What does it cost for this? Oh, you had to have somebody return emails because it was a lost package. Okay, what does that cost? Et cetera, et cetera. So that's why it's critical how you price a product. And it bothers me when I see people talk the revenue, the vanity number. Oh, I sold $1 million on Amazon. Yeah, that means absolutely nothing to me. That's why Mike's program, Profit First, resonated with me, because there's real revenue and then there's vanity revenue.
It's funny because, in the Profit First world, when anyone comes in as an Amazon seller, everyone in our group goes and kind of steps away because they know what the reality is. They're like, I don't know if I want to touch those people.
Yes. Well, and that's what when I started selling on Amazon, it was really interesting. I said, yeah, I'm on Amazon. And I see it as just a channel. That's all it is. It's just a channel. But it's an important channel because that's where the people are. Mm-hmm. And because you go to Amazon because you want to buy something. You Google when you have a question. Those are the big differences. And if you have a t-shirt, you might as well, go to Amazon because you want a t-shirt. You can get great. And it's very convenient. There's a lot of good things about it. But if you have a specific product, like mine, because you're hurt, you're injured, you're in a cast, you might need a little bit more than that. So the sellers, I cringe whenever, I made $7 million last year. No, that's probably not what you made. That's probably your top line revenue. And so it's confusing to a lot of people, and that bothers me. And that's why I just love Mike's program. Just love it.
And I am totally with you on
that. And we're a very special breed. And I love being the Profit First fan.
Hey, the other thing is well, I shouldn't say all, but most of us are not competitive. We're all like, hey, if it works, you connect with that person, go work with them. Connect with me, work with me. Like,
yep.
We're a big, happy family, which is also
yes, we are.
Cool.
Yes, we are. Yes, another thing that I like. Again, getting into that collaboration aspect that I mentioned earlier versus the competitive. It's collaboration. It's like, oh, that'll work for you. Great. Okay, there you go.
If people would like to connect with you, learn more about what you do and some of your different offerings, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can certainly go to my website, which is shemakesproducts.com. And there's a place that you can email me, or you can email me directly at Annette, ANNETTE, at shemakesproducts.com.
And I will put those all in the show notes and make it easy for everyone to connect with you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rocky. It was a wonderful conversation about Profit First and cost of goods and support. It was great.
I enjoyed it as well. When you have those conversations with your spouse, you need to be clear. What is it that you do, and what are the expectations, and how is it all going to work out? The better the conversations you have, the more clarity people get, the more comfortable they are, the easier your life becomes. And you can get your spouse on board and make sure that they are supporting you. It's not always easy, but over time you can make it happen. Hey, if you're interested in a mastermind group, I happen to be in an all men's mastermind group. They are mostly men of faith, and you don't have to be, but that is what they are. And many of them are business owners. As part of this group, we all have 3-year dream plans, and we're working towards them. And I got to tell you, we're 6 months into our plan, and I'm already crushing my goals for that. And now I need to probably revise them. It's amazing what happens when you're with a group of people who are pushing you forward, helping you through the struggles that you face, and allow you to grow and strive. So if you're interested in that, email me. I'm happy to make an introduction into the group. It's called Iron Sharpens Iron, led by Aaron Walker. Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.